It all started when Spice and Scrappy decided to corner men in front of them because they were sick of whispers. Everyone. You won't believe the confusion that just broke out in season 13 of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Admirers realized right away that something was about to blow up, and the tension was so great that it could be felt through the television. There are rumors that Mendeecees and Yandy may not be as picture-perfect as they once were. Discussions have been going about for weeks, but none of them expected the moment to be this passionate, honest, and straightforward. Imagine sitting at a table with friends when the conversation suddenly becomes acerbic. The smiles disappear and everyone is staring at you. This is exactly what occurred when Spice leaned forward and inquired directly about the state of his marriage. Scrappy immediately leaped in when she broke through the den with her voice, making the issue worse and stopping Mendeecees from dodging the obvious. Viewers at home were shocked. A few even called it the season's most shocking confrontation. What came next wasn't just another light-hearted discussion on reality TV. Instead, it was a tragic spectacle that left everyone wondering if one of the program's longest-running couples is on the verge of ending their relationship. When Spice looked directly at Mendeecees, the tone in the room grew somber, something that only she could provide. Leaning Scrappy back in his seat, awaiting the ideal moment to use his own force. No jokes, no music, and no distractions, only the unadulterated energy that radiated between them. Mendeecees made an effort to keep his cool by adjusting his jacket and exhibiting his renowned poise, but it was obvious that even he could not deny the seriousness of the questions being asked of him. Spice had shown patience. Too long. Observing Yandy show off her immaculate beauty while rumors about cracks in the foundation of her marriage persisted. When the chance presented itself, she grabbed it and asked straight out what everyone had been demanding. In reality, how are Yandy and you doing? Mendeecees let out a quiet sigh as though a storm were about to arrive. Initially, he talked softly, as though he hoped no one would pay attention. He said that he wasn't feeling well and that things had been difficult, not even sure how to describe their current circumstances. His justification was so vague that it only led to more. The silence around him became more intense as individuals raised their eyebrows. Scrappy spoke more sharply, leaned forward and shook his head slowly. Dude, everyone is aware that you have been suppressing it for years. However, you don't appear to be confident of nothing at this moment. So what's the real thing? Supporters were astounded by what they heard during this time. Inside minutes, individuals were sharing their shock on social media and calling it the most embarrassing moment of the season thus far. He was accused by others of hiding something, saying that, while some supported Mendeecees, his hesitation spoke louder than words, saying that he was worthy of being alone. The man who had made a name for himself as trustworthy and loyal seemed to be keeping a secret that was too difficult to share. At the very moment, Spice declined to acknowledge his evasive answers. Yandy has created her own empire, she reminded him, fought in front of cameras, maintaining her composure as though nothing could. She drew forward and talked more forcefully, upsetting her. Spice pressed. However, if she's that strong and you're right there with her, why does it seem like you don't even know where you're at? Saw Mendeecees move uncomfortably in his chair as the question delved further, as though he'd been caught between protecting his pride and revealing a sad fact. Carly, who never fails to incite controversy, abruptly emerged, hurling her words upon a flame that was already on fire. For a brief moment, the whole table froze, the silence echoing like a cadence. All eyes were fixed on Mendeecees, anticipating his confirmation or rejection of the whisper. "So are you together or not?" she inquired in a sly tone after smirking and swirling her drink. His cheeks tightened and his jaw clenched as if he wanted to speak but couldn't bring himself to. Instead, he muttered that 20 years had passed. No matter what, that family was family, and that it wasn't always necessary to describe the relationship. But the lack of a definitive answer just heightened suspicion. In silence, they both acknowledged that something wasn't quite correct. Fans speculated wildly as Scrappy and Spice looked at each other about what could be going on outside of the show. Some claimed that Mendeecees had gained attention prior to his wedding. Some claimed to have seen Yandy making cryptic remarks about patience, while others claimed to have spotted him wearing a ring during recent appearances and devotion on the internet. The chaos just got louder, whether that was genuine or not, enhancing the sense that an important discovery was about to be made. The atmosphere in the room kept shifting. Friends who had laughed easily together now cautiously eyed one another, considering whether to push further might lead to the collapse of everything. Spick's voice grew softer, yet it was still piercing. She underlined to the Mendes that the truth was eventually exposed, and that keeping it a secret never kept people secure for a long time. It seemed as though Mendes was trying to gather He leaned back and rubbed his palms together, finding the strength to confront the flames. He said that carrying the weight of he was exhausted by expectations, and a mix of fatigue and annoyance marred his tone. Being that it wasn't always easy being the family's rock and the one with all the answers, and there were times when he wasn't uncertain of how much more he could endure. At this candor, the group went hushed in wonder. The usual squabbling and back and forth momentarily disappeared, to be replaced by the raw image of AA Man revealing his innermost thoughts. Scrappy nodded cautiously, acknowledging the pain in his friend's voice, but Spice wasn't really satisfied. She wanted an explanation, a statement, or something that would prove that the marriage was in doubt, or prove that the rumors were false. Carly had to put forth more effort, of course. "I believe Yandy has already made her choice," she muttered, bending forward and grinning slyly so that everyone could hear it. The phrases arrived like a bomb, leaving everyone stunned and unable to speak. "Maybe she simply hasn't informed you yet." Carly effortlessly delivered the scathing charge, despite the fact that nobody anticipated hearing it out loud. The room descended into chaos, with voices overlapping as some added the notion that the power couple might not be as stable as they wanted the public to believe. While others, Mendes stayed motionless as he tried to protect Yandy. His face was a mask of conflicting emotions caught between anger and melancholy. The air grew considerably heavier than anyone had anticipated, given the persistent whispers of betrayal. The inquiries grew stronger as the night went on. Despite friends, Mendes remained silent, requests for candor, which made everyone agitated and uneasy. The individual at the center of it all seemed more exposed than before, as what had started out as a kind conversation had suddenly turned into an actual interrogation. Everyone in the room knew that his next remarks might either fix the problems or completely ruin the picture. As silence quickly gave way to voices, waves like lightning chasing thunder, the room's tension almost unacceptable. Mendes had always been a reserved person who preferred to let his actions speak for themselves, more powerful than words. However, tonight, with Scrappy leaning in, Carly pressing spices, and Carly flinging fire whenever she could, he could find no safe place to hide. At home, viewers were glued to the TV, waiting for a revelation that wouldn't come out completely. As the cameras recorded each twitch look and tiny shift in his body language, Spice's deliberate and piercing drumming of her fingernails on the table, increasing the level of tension. Her voice remained fierce as she answered, I'm not trying to put you on blast for being dirty, but we've seen Yandy stand up for you and help you through tough times. When others asked her questions and when she had to deal with everything by herself. So when you say you don't sure where you two stand, it doesn't sound like the man she fought so hard for. Those words cut through the air as if someone were about to give up like a blade. His arms folded, his Scrappy leaned back, his eyes narrowed as if he were measuring every word the Mendeecees may say. "You don't simply get to skirt the query," Scrappy went on. "There's genuine conversation. Everybody were either in or out, yet this person has relationships and knows how tough they can be. If you refer to it as love," Mendes gave a disgruntled shake of his head and said, "there is no middle ground. Laugh without humor. You see, that's the issue. Everyone thinks they know what's going on, but you only see pieces. Yandy and I have gone through things you can't possibly imagine. I can't even begin to describe them all, of it with a few words at a table. It's not easy." Carly smiled while putting down her cup in time for another blow. "Complicated," she repeated in a caustic manner. "This is what you sit here pretending that you don't even know whether you're solid or not? But men utilize when they've already left. Plex is merely code for broken. And complex seems to be just code for holding everything together." Following the comment, Spice jerked her head in Carly's direction. "You messy," Spice retorted. She appeared to be secretly relieved that the problem had been brought up, though because of the gleam in her eyes. Perhaps messy is what we need right now, even though he isn't really answering our questions. The fans on the internet had a field day as their responses came flooding in like wildfire, with this instance. Carly was chastised by some for being insensitive, whilst others called her the queen of provocation and chuckled at her foolishness. Within minutes, hashtags went viral after the couple's alleged split, indicating how eager fans were to see rifts in it previously. They had taken marriage for granted. However, there was no fan laughter in the room. In the air were layers of suspicion and curiosity. Scrappy leaned forward, once greater solemnity in his voice. Look, I've known you for a long time. I haven't seen you stumble like this previously. So let's be honest, man. Are you and Yandy are indeed the collaboration we all thought you were, or are you now just acting that way? Mendeecees' position. His shoulders drooped slightly, finally displaying the weight of the question. Following a long period, he spoke in a hushed, almost worn-out tone. I love Yandy, no question about it. But love does not mean perfection. Sometimes love is insufficient to heal the wounds. We have history, children, and memories, which makes it even more challenging. But I can't sit here and right now and assert that we are in the proper place. The room went silent as everyone took in the admission. More. Although Spice's expression softened, the intensity of her remarks did not. You see, people are scared to admit that you may be in love with someone and still be enamored with them. But the truth is that Yandy has always been interested in you. And even if everything is against her, she continues to be powerful. What would it take for you to defend her then? He made an effort to hide it, but the candor of he was shaken by Spix's challenge. That's facts, Scrappy said, nodding in agreement. If she has been carrying it, why is she still carrying it alone? The remarks were hurtful, but they also uncovered a mystery that fans had been wondering about for months, with many saying that the disparity in their social media was ablaze with their relationship, which had been evident for some time. Analogies between Yandy's strength and Mendeecees' silence. Others defended him, asserting that nobody knew the whole picture and that everyone had a breaking point. Carly leaned in with, just when it seemed like the moment couldn't get much heavier, there was another bomb. Maybe it has nothing to do with family, history, or love. Maybe it's related to trust. Maybe Yandy doesn't have the same degree of confidence in you. Maybe that's why you sound so unsure. Her audacity made heads turn. Gasps echoed around the table as people began to shake and open their mouths. Mendeecees' face became rigid, and he squinted at Carly with such harsher than before. He screamed, "You don't know!" with such fury that it was clear she had touched a nerve. What you're discussing? Sitting here, don't act like you know my household. But Carly wasn't done yet. I don't need to be familiar with your household, she continued, lifting her eyebrows in a seemingly innocent manner. It can be seen in your eyes. Voices overlapping, the dispute grew more heated as Scrappy aimed to defuse the situation, and Spice attempted to shift the topic, but the damage had already been done. The uncertainty had been stitched, and the incident was often reenacted by viewers. Examining every glance, as the loudness progressively decreased, Spice sat back in her chair and shook her head with each tone shift. I'm only stating that people can say whatever they want in the end. However, if you don't deal with it, the streets will speak for themselves, and once they do, you won't be able to stop it. Start talking. Mendeecees caressed his temples, clearly exhausted, but he couldn't disregard the truth of what she said. He knew better than anyone that it was nearly impossible to steer the story, once gossip began to circulate. Nevertheless, his quiet acted as a barrier, and that wall was starting to crumble under the weight of expectation. The conversation never became fully realized as the evening wore on. The questions never fully eased the stress kept swirling. The scene concluded with the distinct impression that something more important was evolving, something that could eventually force the truth to the surface. The cameras were trained on Mendeecees' troubled face. The next day, the rumors continued. In the morning, followers every second of the fight was being examined on all platforms. Since the altercation's news had others slowed down the video to emphasize the Mendeecees' restless hands, while others had already disseminated outside the gathering of friends, others focused on Spice's fierce gaze beneath the table, which appeared to cut through everything. Explanations. So are you together or not? Was the phrase that signaled the event. Got viral on the internet and was played and cut numerous times. But Mendeecees woke up to a storm that seemed to be getting worse. His phone was beeping nonstop with previous texts. Family members, friends, and even phone calls from folks he hadn't spoken to in a long time. Everyone wanted to know what was genuinely occurring between Yandy and him. He had a dark, unreadable face. However, Yandy seemed to be quietly perusing the endless stream of posts while he sat in his living room, speaking quietly of her own. Many quotes about fortitude, loyalty, and maintaining one's peace were included as she progressed on social media. Immediately, fans connected the dots and assumed that the problem was the target of these mysterious postings. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer in particular was a statement that shocked everyone, the internet. Supporters disagreed over whether she was only protecting or making fun of Mendeecees. Still feeling energized after the chaos? Still full of energy from the night before? Scrappy and Spice got back in touch with the group. Spice shook her head, remembering the look on Mendeecees' face. He was more than just uneasy. She clearly stated totinacious. He needed to hide something. He continued avoiding us and couldn't look us in the eyes, so I knew, straight. He just doesn't want to reveal that something more important is taking place. Scrappy wasn't at first convinced. Maybe, he said, he just got tired of everyone in his company. But he was not able to disregard the significance of what his friend had said the night before. However, you're right about one thing, Scrappy agreed. He had never looked so disoriented. He is typically stable under all circumstances. Last night, he didn't seem to know who he was. Meanwhile, Carly was taking pleasure in the situation. She made several calls, friends, and excitedly related all the details, adding her own twist to the tale. Over the phone, she laughed. Girl, he was unable to respond with a simple affirmative or negative, and Spice attacked him. Her giggling only strengthened the narrative, guaranteeing that by the afternoon, all cast members were aware of the conflict. Chile. There in the seat, I felt he was going to dissolve. The only thing that added to the mystery was Mendeecees' quiet. He almost let the rumors to control him by saying nothing, instead of speaking or in line self-defense. But that silence allowed others to fill in the blanks, and soon, wild notions began to spread. According to some, he and Yandy were not living together. According to some, he was spotted with another woman, and some even suggested that the couple had broken up months before and was only keeping it a secret from the press. In spite of all of Yandy sat calmly with her family and close friends during this turmoil. However, her heart was clearly burdened. One of her pals said, "Are you going to address what everybody's saying?" Directly. Yandy slowly shook her head. Any topic will be discussed by people, but I can't let their views control my truth. I'll speak when the time is right. Her eyes showed let them wonder till then. Her words were powerful despite the storm that was brewing beneath the surface. Tension arose when Spice decided to speak with Yandy directly, and she met her right away after that week. I can't just let this nonsense unfold without asking, even if I love you, sis, because Mendeecees is pretending not to know where you are. Her hands are folded neatly, and Yandy took a big breath in her lap and said carefully, "We've been through more than anyone could conceive. I don't have to share every detail with the public. I will say this, though. Getting married is challenging, and being in the spotlight makes every flaw more noticeable. We're getting better, but it's not easy." Spice moved forward and politely refused to let the conversation finish. But when he not being able to even tell if you are all together isn't the solution. Rather, it's allowing Yandy's calmness allowed everyone to make their own choices for the first time. Her face stiffened and she faltered. "Do you think I don't realize that? I hear everything, but I don't see the murmurs or the comments. Sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to keep quiet until you're ready to fight again. What's left?" As the room fell silent, Spice looked at her with a combination of sympathy and frustration, wanting to push further, but the vulnerability in Yandy's voice made her decide not to. But the harm had already been done. Despite the best efforts, the story's shortcomings could not be completely hidden. Defects. Fans spotted every single feature. Timelines were swamped with side-by-side video of Yandy's mysterious posts and the Mendeecees' hesitation, which caused followers to proclaim that the couple's rule was formally ending. Others held up hope, saying that some 20 years of love couldn't be destroyed by acrimonious disagreements, with each side thinking they knew the truth better than anybody else. Otherwise, the fans' distance from one another grew. In the meantime, utilizing a more subtle strategy, Scrappy was able to overtake Mendeecees again, and he uttered quietly, "I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, man, but if you're in pain, you should go to someone since it didn't look well done on your departure that night. You seemed like you were drowning, but you were too stubborn to ask for help." Many sat silently for a long time before responding. "It's tough junk. I don't know how to solve it. Even when everyone is staring at you as if you know all the solutions. I don't know whether things can be fixed, if wanting is enough anymore, but I do know that I don't want to lose her." Those comments struck Scrappy more than he expected. Seeing it was one thing to be unsure of his friend's look, but it was another to hear it spoken so plainly. For the first time, Scrappy realized that the scenario involved a man who was torn between loyalty. It wasn't just about drama or history. and the terrifying possibility of losing everything he had worked so hard to build. Rumor. But reality TV endures, and this drama was far from ended, unsolved tension. As the days passed, it became more and more clear how different the Mendeecees and Yandy were, and people around them struggled to decide whether to step in or distance themselves. Everyone pondered if a confession, a fight, or a torturous departure would disclose the truth. As reports of as the weeks went by, secrets, devotion, and treachery whirled in every way. In all of the shows connected to it, the tension just grew, exploding from private conversations into furious speculation. Circles. What started out as a heated dinner dispute between Mendeecees. Now that Spice and Scrappy had become the season's central plot, all of the fans thought they were the only ones who'd learnt the truth, and each member of the cast had a viewpoint. Regardless of how, the Mendeecees made a concerted effort to conceal themselves by posters, whispers, and silence. Continued, and the storm continued. It was no longer just friends. It was family. One of Mendeecees' relatives cruelly pulled him aside during a family gathering. "You cannot, despite our love for you, you still ignore us. People are talking about you, your marriage, and Yandy. This is no longer simply about TV. It's about respect. Clear the air before someone else clears it for you," was a powerful statement, but he was still having problems. However, even though she was elegant, those closest to her could recognize the shortcomings in her character. She finally succumbed to her feelings during a little get-together with her sisters. "Are you aware of what it's like to defend your family every day and then see it disappear before your eyes?" "Cameras?" She spoke with tears in her eyes, and as her sisters comforted her, it was clear that you were in pain. To watch the man you sacrificed everything for, Spice has no intention of acting as though he is unsure of your continued value, of maintaining harmony. Committed to exposing the truth, she scheduled a meeting with Mendeecees and Yandy as. The cameras showed the duo sitting across from one another, their bodies tense and their eyes avoiding one another. Spice wasted no time in recording every tense moment. "The two of you have been, too much time has been spent dancing around this. The streets have already written their own story. Let us know if this is accurate, or are you all playing for the cameras?" Before Yandy finally said something, there appeared to be an eternity of silence. Her voice was calm, yet each word was filled with pain. "I don't have to pretend to be someone else. I've built what I own on my own, and I've carried more than anyone would ever know, but I can't endure it all alone indefinitely." Her eyes wandered to Mendeecees, hoping he would, finally, instead of keeping quiet, stand beside her and talk to her. Mendeecees, his jaw tensed as he shifted in his chair, and he muttered in a husky voice, "I never asked you to bear it all, but now that you've done so, you're dismissing it as though I didn't try. It doesn't matter if I've been there in ways that no one has noticed, since I'm not shouting it from the rooftops." A strong Spice interjection. "But it does count because she is sitting here saying that she feels lonely. You think that the unseen is of interest to the fans. They care about their emotions since everyone feels as though they are now battling alone. When you're unable to move, Mendeecees," the words stung and eyes flared with anger and embarrassment. It showed up for a minute that he might finally lose it, but instead he leaped to his feet and started pacing the floor, gripping his fists, his hands. "I'm tired of everyone behaving like we're trying something new, and of people asking if we're together, as if they are more familiar with my marriage than I am. This is my life. It's not amusement." Yandy observed him while unintelligible expression as the atmosphere tightened. Above his anger, her quietly spoke a lot. After setting aside his chair and shaking his head, Scrappy spoke. "You may yell all you want, but what you're really angry about, Guy, is the truth. You don't know how you're scared she'll slide away, so stop her." Mendeecees stopped when the no charge penetrated him as deeply as words. His quiet confirmed what? He had not recognized that everyone had guessed. He was terrified of losing both his identity and his wife. Over the span of 20 years with her, he had grown. A person who never misses a chance. Carly grinned while she leaned closer. She replied in a dramatic tone, "So, is this the end of the fairy tale?" Her words hung in the air, making the other people in the room gasp and look at her curiously. Reason. It certainly doesn't appear to be a happily ever after. Finally, with a more, Yandy spoke again, breaking her stillness. "Fairy tales don't apply here. This relates to integrity, devotion, and deference. Additionally, I feel like I've been providing for this marriage alone at the instant. Carly was also hushed, even though she didn't have anything caustic to say for once, by her tone of vulnerability. I'm not sure how long I can continue. The fans back home were stunned. Twitter timelines were instantly overflowing with comments, some of which praised Yandy's bravery. A few others were criticizing Mendeecees for not stepping up, while others hoped the two would make it through this ordeal. Memes displaying screen grabs of his silence along with statements like confused spouse energy and tell it with your chest were widely available online. Strong emotions characterized the sequence's conclusion, hanging in the air instead of being resolved. Spice looked around the table and shook her head in surprise. If you guys don't, the world will take care of this for you because once it happens, there's no going back. A long, multifaceted gaze that encompassed 2 decades of history at the same time. Love Mendeecees and Yandy fans expressed feelings of betrayal, forgiveness, and exhaustion, were left screaming at their screens in search of answers that never came. A look that expressed everything and nothing. As they walked out of the room, the unanswered questions reverberated louder than any fight. Every step is captured by cameras. Were they still together, or was this the beginning of the end? Not even they knew. But one thing was certain, they had applied pressure. The drama had broken out, and their story's shortcomings could not be disregarded any longer. Supporters wanted answers. Every frame was examined by blogs. Several rumor websites posted illogical conjectures about potential outcomes as the repercussions went beyond the ensemble. There was little doubt that Season 13 had discovered its most memorable event, and everyone was unable to stop observing. Whether this was another storm or the conclusion of a love story, together they would weather. There you have it. Everyone is buzzing about the exchange. The fight that transformed a typical evening into one of the most memorable meetings of the season. Carly added fuel to the blaze. Spice, as well as Mendeecees, found himself in the hot seat like never before when Scrappy didn't hold back. Supporters disagreed over what was genuinely taking place behind closed doors due to Yandy's power. Quietness as well as subtle hints. Could this really be the turning point following 2 decades of commitment, love, and family? Or will it be another storm that passes? In reality, nobody knows for sure, and that's exactly what keeps the tension high. Eventually, will Mendeecees come forward and prove the skeptics wrong, or will Yandy feel has she had enough? Was it appropriate for Feast to seek clarification, or did she go too far into private matters? Of course, is Carly making the was it only for the cameras, or did she accidentally say something real? These are the questions that are impacting social media, dividing followers and sparking endless debates. We'd like to hear from you now. Is one of the show's most talked about couples ending their lives? Otherwise, do you believe Yandy and can Mendeecees withstand this storm? Share your thoughts in a comment. Join the conversation and make your voice known is having an impact on Atlanta's love and hip-hop scenes. Please click the like button if you enjoy the breakdown. To be the first to know about updates, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. Know when the next big thing will happen. You won't want to miss it, I assure you.